Well, last Sunday, my family and I traveled to southwestern Nebraska to boondock on Lake McConaughey. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the term boondocking, it's basically primitive camping in your camper. But there's no power, there's no running water, and there's no sewer. You are self-sufficient. Our plan was to find the perfect place to camp on the beach, right at the water's edge, ready to kayak or fish at a moment's notice. Now, you can camp almost anywhere on the 71 miles of beach on Lake McConaughey. But we quickly realized that they are experiencing a 10-plus year drought, and all the coves that would normally have water are completely dry. And so there were signs everywhere that said, you will need a 4-wheel drive vehicle to make this happen. No problem. My truck can haul 3 times the weight of the camper. We've got this. What's that phrase? Famous last words? Well, each beach area is separated by a little tributary that drains and feeds into the lake. You drive down and across the beach, and then to leave, you turn around and drive back out the way you came in. Well, it was starting to get dark, and we're on our 3rd or our 4th beach trying to figure or find the perfect spot to camp. And I was beginning to get a little anxious and antsy. It was 7:30. We needed to get this done. But we decided to try one last area. And so we're leaving the beach area to go back around the tributary when the truck begins to drive just a little slower. And I thought, well, that's odd. And I gave it a little gas, and it went a little slower. And so I looked out and realized that our tires were about 12 inches deep in sand, and the sand was extremely wet. And so I gave it a little bit more gas, and the truck went even slower, and then just stopped. And we were stuck. And I lost it. I had so many holy words that I was sharing with the universe. I was mad. I was mad at Reverend Amy, who likes to go on these adventurous things that gets us into trouble. It's all Amy's fault. I was mad at myself that I wasn't more prepared for the way the beach was and what would happen. I was afraid of how much it was going to cost to get us out. $75, $100, $150. Well, I got out of the truck to calm down, but to assess the situation as well. And Reverend Amy decided to start calling tow companies to figure out who could pull us out. Well, no one pulls anybody out on a Sunday night in Nebraska. And we had to wait until the next morning. And it didn't cost $180. It was $600 to get towed out. Now I'm even more angry and more anxious and more exasperated. And I'm not paying $600. So we got to work. We got the kitchen mats out of the camper and put them behind the tires. And slowly, 12 inches at a time, we backed the camper and the truck back down the beach out of the sand. 7:30 turned into 8:30. 8:30 turned into 9:30. We only had 30 feet to go. 9:30 turned to 10 o'clock when we were finally unstuck. But now it's dark. And I can't see the road. I don't know how we get out of that. So I said, we're just staying right here until the morning. We didn't have any power. I wasn't going to hook the generator up and run it. We were unlevel. And then some lunatic at midnight starts doing donuts in his Jeep in the middle of the beach. And I'm like, hey, big dark object right here. I know he's going to hit us. We did not sleep at all that night. Well, the next morning, I started the generator so that the sustenance of life could be brewed. Calms everybody down. We all feel better when we've had some coffee. So we're standing there drinking our coffee, looking at the mess, trying to figure out how to get out. And I said, if we get stuck again, we're going home. And Nora says, I just want to go home anyway. But I knew If we went home, we would miss a lot of that vacation. We would miss the experience of the good coming out of the wilderness. We would miss being the only people on the lake. We would miss the warm water. We'd miss the fire on the beach. We'd miss the sky full of stars. And we would miss that family time of just slowing down and resting. In the end, we all agreed, even Reverend Amy agrees, we are not boondocking people. We need electricity, we need power, we need sewer, we need water, and a level campsite. We had an amazing trip once we found those things. Maybe we weren't in the wilderness exactly, but whenever fear is involved, it feels that way. The wilderness is a scary place. Fear makes us afraid. Fear is a natural human reaction to situations that are beyond our control. It's a natural response to the disorientation we feel in the world at times. We fear the unknown. We fear losing control. We fear when we are stuck in a place. My panic about being stuck in the sand is not about the camper or the truck or even how much it would cost. It is the fear of feeling helpless. How many of you have felt or now feel like you are lost in the wilderness and are truly afraid? This worship service this summer has really focused on the minor prophets of the Hebrew Bible, all 12 of them. Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Malachi, and Zechariah. They spoke to Israel over 300 years. And they've addressed issues that you know, issues of idolatry and nationalism and identity, and how justice and faithfulness to God are important even in a time of exile. And that's what they're in. We call this the exilic period. They were conquered by the Babylonians and then the Assyrians and then the Persians let them go back home. But it's not a homecoming of victory. They are still very much afraid. They're subject to a foreign power. The walls of Jerusalem aren't going to keep any new invaders out, and the temple of God is missing, so where is a God supposed to be? They have a very rational fear, a natural human reaction to instability and uncertainty. And this is where the prophet Zechariah then steps in at the end of this prophetic period. His name means Yahweh remembers, and he is here to remind the people there is a future path, a vision of God. And he paints for them this beautiful picture of people returning, of a restored Jerusalem, a city where old women and men can sit in the streets, where children can play safely. Zechariah's message is a counterpoint to the fear they are feeling. He doesn't say, don't be afraid. He says, in your fear, have hope. He reminds them, you're going to rebuild this temple. And it's in this place that the Messiah will come. God will come and have a place on earth. And even though it seems impossible right now, have hope, because God will walk here. Now, we should recognize we don't live in 3rd century BCE Jerusalem, and we don't live in 1st century Christianity facing persecutions and crucifixions, but we are in a wilderness moment. We're living in a time when the decline of Christianity causes us to feel afraid, like the wilderness is closing in. Theologian John Shelby Spong says, the only thing I know to tell you in this moment of Christianity is to enter into the exile, to feel the anxiety, to feel the discomfort, and to trust and still continue to believe God has a path for us. We are in the exile moment, a moment away from our comfort, away from our uniformity. And the prophet reminds us that in this moment of fear, we must find what binds us together. South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu talks about what it means to exit the exile, especially in his country after apartheid. And he says, in an exile where truth is a constant casualty, we must declare that truth matters. In an exile where human life seems to be dirt cheap, we must proclaim that people matter, and matter enormously. And that means everyone, not just some. Our job is not to pretend we're not in the wilderness. Our job is to be the church in the wilderness. Many of you have asked why I selected baseball as the overarching theme for this Minor Prophets. Did I play baseball in high school, or what is my love of baseball? I enjoy watching baseball immensely. I watch it often. But here's my baseball story, and here is our lesson for today. I loved T-ball. T-ball was perfect. If we could go back to T-ball, I'd still be playing, because the ball's sitting right there, and you hit it, and it can only go so far. It's not going to go too far, right? And then I graduated to coach pitch, and there's a ball hurtling towards me that I'm somehow expected to hit with a bat. And then they put me in the field, and there are now balls flying towards me. And my response to flying balls is this. I duck. I look away. I cover myself. And so they said, Eric, we're going to put you in the left field, in the outfield. Well, I went to the outfield because I wanted to be as far away from that ball as I could. We, in our fear, look away. Most Christian traditions will preach have no fear, suggesting that fear is an unfaithful act. I don't believe you get rid of fear. I am still afraid of baseballs, even sitting in a baseball stadium when there are professionals playing. We are a people who must confront our fear. We must learn to live, and maybe sometimes we live trembling, believing that God's faithfulness will find a way forward. The Israelites would spend another 400 years after the temple was completed, waiting for the Messiah as we know him to come and walk there. What incredible faith it would take to persevere and to wait for the promise of hope. As you go into the world, don't turn away from the ball, or you will miss the fear making the catch. Go into the world and don't turn away from the injustices that exist, or you will never see the day when justice will prevail. Do not go into the world letting anything hold you back, especially that which you are afraid of. For in the wilderness, you will miss the hope of God in a new